Hey, what's up, everyone? And welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. Today, we got a crazy show. Let's get straight into it. Now, it's been a while since we talked about Malika Andrews, but a number of years ago, Malika Andrews was all over the news. Why? Because about 2 or 3 years ago, Ime Udoka, who was actually promoted as an assistant head coach to the head coach of the Boston Celtics, I believe back in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, where they were kind of having an okay season, and then he took over the team. They became the number one defense in the NBA, and then they made the playoffs, and they made it all the way to the NBA Finals, beating players like Kevin Durant, Kyrie. It was just an incredible, incredible run. And after that, we thought that Ime Udoka was going to get a major contract with the Boston Celtics and blah, 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 blah. Then one of the biggest sports scandals broke in the last 5 years, where we found out Ime Udoka had an affair with someone, a staffer working in the Boston Celtics organization. But when the news initially dropped, everyone and their grandmother came to the conclusion, including a lot of men, that Ime Udoka was guilty, that he was in a position of power without even knowing who the person was. How did you know Ime Udoka was in a position of power when we didn't even know who the identity of the woman was? Well, that's when it kicked off with Malika Andrews, where she went on the attack. The first stop she made was on ESPN First Take, because remember, she went to the press conference when the Boston Celtics announced that they were going to be suspending Ime. And Stephen A. Smith was essentially trying to make sense of what had happened. And Malika Andrews just went on a tirade against Stephen A. Smith to the point where he had to check her. Take a listen to this sound here.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation. And so to me, that is what stood out. But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this. It's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled.
So that happened, right? Then subsequently, as we found out they were going to, release his contract, we later on heard that the Brooklyn Nets were considering interviewing and hiring Ime Udoka for the head coaching position. And then Malika Andrews again showed up on ESPN talking about fighting for the rights of women and where is the justice for the women that were involved in this situation. And she was going after Ime Udoka again. Take a listen to this sound here.
I want to bring Zach Lowe into this conversation now because it's not lost on me that Ime Udoka has done incredible things with the Boston Celtics. But it just seems like if we're having this conversation about Ime Udoka being hired by Brooklyn, where he was an assistant coach, accountability is the word I keep coming back to. Where is the accountability to women in the NBA? Zach, what do you make of this?
Let's just rewind the whole thing. The last 16 months in Nets land, after, as RJ said, they were very close to unseating the Bucks and doing who knows what in the playoffs when they had what will now forever be known as the greatest theoretical team in NBA history. Here's what's happened since then, and I had to write it all down, culminating in Ime Udoka's hire, which I'll get to, I promise. Number one, Kyrie Irving refuses to get vaccinated, misses most of last season after taking a hiatus from the season before. Number two, James Harden looks around and is like, oh, this stinks. I didn't sign up for this. I'm going to quit on the team until you trade me. Number three, they trade for Ben Simmons, who misses the whole season, has back surgery, and is now afraid to shoot or get fouled. Number four, Kyrie opts into the last year of his contract because nobody wants him. Number five, Durant demands a trade. Then when he doesn't get it, issues an ultimatum that Steve Nash get fired and Sean Marks get fired. That fails. Everybody comes back. Yay, everything's fine. The vibes are amazing. Oh my God. Well, flash forward like 2 more weeks. The team stinks. Kyrie Irving tweets out a movie full of anti-Semitic tropes, refuses to answer questions about it. And now they fire Steve Nash and without any explanation, hire the coach that the Celtics just suspended for what they deemed an inappropriate consensual relationship, which either means one of two things. Number one, they didn't vet Udoka at all, or number two, they've been vetting him this entire time while Steve Nash was the coach of the team. I'm so tired of it. This team has won 1 playoff series in 3 years. 1. Do something. Get something right, and then we'll talk about something else, because I'm tired of this.
That I don't know that anyone can say it better than that, Richard.
Fantastic. So you heard that. And by the way, as a quick aside, when they later on found out that they were going to be hiring Joe Mazzulla, she went and dug up the dirt from his past and did a show about. That's the kind of time that Malika Andrews was on. So let's fast forward to the present day. As you guys know, Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel was recently caught having an affair with an NFL reporter. And there were pictures of it that came out. His wife found out, turned into an entire mess. And everyone was talking about it. Well, not everyone. Some people were talking about it. And now, just to give you guys a quick update. So essentially from this ESPN article, it says Mike Vrabel to seek counseling won't be with the Patriots for NFL draft day. And essentially, I'm just going to read through this quickly. New England's head coach Mike Vrabel won't be with the team for the 3rd day of the NFL draft. And he says, as I said the other day, I promised my family, this organization, and the team that I was going to give them the best version of me that I can possibly give them. In order to do so, I have committed to seeking counseling starting this weekend. Vrabel said on Wednesday night, this is something that I have given a lot of thought to and something I would advise a player to do if I was counseling them. I have also wanted to lead by example, and I believe that this is what I have to do to be the best husband, father, and coach that I possibly can be. This is not easy for me to admit, but it is one of the things I know make me a better person. Blah 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 blah. Right. So essentially, he addressed the media on Tuesday, and it says Vrabel addressed the media for the first time since the New York Post published photos that appeared to show the coach embracing and holding hands with former Athletic reporter Deanna Rossini at a resort in Arizona. He said to the reporters Tuesday that it was a personal and private matter, adding that had some difficult conversations with people I care about, with my family and the organization and coaches and the players. So essentially, Mike Vrabel, if I got his name right, is essentially going to be seeking counseling at this point, right? And that's the end of it. So I was just combing through the World Wide Web, right? Optimus Prime from the movie. And I came across a post here that really caught my attention. And it's from Dark Mode Season. And I want to put it up here. It says, Vrabel should be getting this treatment. Where is Malika Andrews when she is needed? And I said, wait a minute here. This is a very good point. And then I began to search the internet to see, maybe she talked about it. There's no resource or article or video on the internet of Ime Udoka Malika Andrews even touching this story. Then I found out the last person or the first person to ask this question was Too Raw for TV. He spoke about it. Now, some people are going to say, well, wait a minute, Charles, you're reaching here. Why would Malika Andrews talk about this when it's an NFL coach where she predominantly covers basketball? Well, that's a fair observation. Here's the problem, however. When Malika Andrews was going after Ime Udoka, she was going after him on the behalf of women. Now, if you're telling me that the only women that matter to Ime Udoka are women within the NBA community, you need to go ahead and kick rocks and go tell that to the birds, because they're the only ones that are frankly going to be listening to that nonsense. No tweet. You couldn't even put out a tweet about it to express your disgust. She wanted Ime Udoka out of the NBA. She didn't even want the guy to have a job. And at the time, we didn't even know who he had the affair with. We never even know. We later on found out, I think it was one of the top executives. So it wasn't his subordinate at all. And at the time, she was even pissed off at the fact, even if you brought it up to defend her, she would cut you off like she did Kendrick Perkins. Even Jalen Rose said, wait a minute, these are two consenting adults here. Why do we know Ime's name and not the woman's name? And then ESPN forced him to put out a public apology within minutes. So they had made it clear it was open season on Ime. And that time, Stephen A. Smith was defending Ime. And I was with him on that. But now, not even a mumbling word. Do you know it got so bad that people thought that she was targeting black athletes, that when the Josh Giddey stuff came out, we even put out a video. A lot of people were like, where's Malika Andrews? You can't find her. The pressure became so much that ESPN forced Malika Andrews to put out a comment. You remember that? I remember that because I did that on my honeymoon. I did a video about that on my honeymoon. In the hotel bathroom. I went to go do a video. Was it the hotel bathroom? Wherever it was. I did a video about it. On my honeymoon, I remember. We looking for you. Not even a tweet.